Maybe this, ooh, better. All right. Thank you for being here. We got started a little late, technical problems. Not a PowerPoint expert, unfortunately. After this talk, we are giving away a GoPro 7, and we're also entering people in a trip to Bali. If you're interested in that, we're going to send around a box. You can put your name card, your business card in there, and we're going to do that drawing right at the end of the session. So, introductions. This is the agenda. I don't know why I put an agenda in this. Usually we just do that for business meetings, but it's a little different. I can talk a little bit about who I am. Jay Sudowski. You might be wondering why I'm even here. Why did I come to this show, right? Shan and Andy have been customers of mine for about 20 years at this point. Where Exabytes is US data center. So if you've ever hosted with Exabyte and had issues with their US data center, it's probably my fault. But aside from that, I've been involved in the internet for a long time. I first started doing internet marketing of some sort in the mid-90s when I was in high school, and I didn't really like high school. Decided that I was going to design websites. Decided the best way to design websites would be to, I guess at that time it was telnet into my ISP's server and get a list of all their user files and email them all about my services. Well, guess what? That didn't really end well. I actually did get some business out of that. Handy Networks is my primary company. Like I mentioned, we're a cloud co-location company. We're based in Denver, Colorado. If you ever come to Denver, come see us. We'd love to show you our space, buy you a drink, coffee, whatever the case may be. It's really funny. Chan is 364 days older than me, but due to the time change, we actually have our birthday on the same day, at least for a few hours. Handy Sends, and this is the last of the sales talk, by the way. Handy Sends is also a service of Handy Networks. We're partnered with SendGrid and Twilio, and we're working with SendGrid to expand their offerings in the Asia Pacific region. So we have a very channel-driven approach, which means we want to partner with people who are in this room or outside of this room, whether you're a web design shop or you're some kind of a bank or even a school or someone who's doing internet training. We want to work with you to bring SendGrid to Malaysia. We have a bunch of ways that you can do that. If that's of interest to you, come find us. If not, come find us and let us know why. Also, if you're a SendGrid customer now, we have preferred pricing through SendGrid. So we can move your account under our reseller account. You won't lose any functionality. You won't lose anything at all, except you'll have some more money left in your bank account at the end of the month. All right. So what we're going to be talking about today is how to improve the deliverability of email. And I've had a number of conversations today with people who are like, email marketing, is that even a thing? Do people still do that? Like, where's Facebook? Or like, I want to be able to buy some Instagram influencer credits or something, right? And what I would say is that email marketing is not dead. It's just very different, right? Platform-based markets, you know exactly what the rules are. You know what you have to do to engage with those platforms, whether you're purchasing advertisements or if you're working with influencers. You know how to do that. There's a very clear process for that. You also have access to huge troves of data, which we give to these platforms. We willingly give it away. Take that however you want it, but we're the product. And you can drill down, and I could probably, right now, I could go on Facebook or Instagram, and I could have someone set up an ad that says, I want to target people that are in Cyberjaya and who have an internet background and are between, 30 and 45 and have 2 kids and a dog, right? You can do that. It's very easy to find the people you want. Email marketing is totally different, right? I mean, first of all, it's a much kind of different interaction, but you also have everybody. There's over 8 million email servers on the internet. All of them are run a little bit differently. They all have different rules you have to comply with. They all have different technical requirements to talk to them. Some of them might just not want to talk to you. You know, it's not uncommon, for instance, for countries in the US to just say, we're just going to block all email from servers in China or something, right? And even if you can get over those hurdles, it can be hard to get your email in the inbox. Go to the spam folder, it could go to promotions, it could go who knows where. Might not be going to the inbox. So we have 10 quick tips. If you need to multitask and maybe only want to pay attention for about 45 seconds, now is the time. So I've split these up into two kind of buckets, like a more technical track and then a more marketing track. On the technical side, you want to be using different IP addresses to send different types of email. So here we're talking about your regular business email, your marketing email, and potentially your transactional email. You don't want all those coming from the same IP address. You want to keep your mail sending volume consistent. This is really true on the marketing side, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. You need to make sure you have all the technical stuff in place, your SPF records, your DKIM records, your DMARC records. These are all things that sound complicated. They can be a little complicated to implement, but they let mailbox providers know that your email has a certain level of legitimacy about it. So you also want to avoid blacklists. I don't know if anybody knows what a mail server blacklist is, but if you get on that blacklist, it's based on your IP address, and it can be hard to get off of it because we have no control over these blacklists. Some of them are operated anonymously by random people on the internet. And then you also need to monitor your email engagement metrics, right? So this is one area where, again, platform-based marketing, platform-based advertising really excels. Oh dear, that light is bright over there. That's why I'm in the corner. Very bright light on the stage. So we'll talk about metrics too. And then more on the marketing side, you want to build your own email list, right? We're not buying lists off of eBay or renting them. We really shouldn't be. Don't generate leads like that. You're going to ruin your reputation on your IP address, and you're going to have a lot of trouble. We should be using double opt-in. This isn't 1996 anymore. You don't need to kind of hack your ISP's server and copy their list of users. Just do double opt-in. So if you're not familiar with that, what we're talking about is, someone signs up for a mailing list. They get an email that says, hey, we're just making sure you signed up for this email list. Please click OK to continue, right? You want to clean up your email list regularly. This is actually, we go into this in some detail, but believe it or not, the less email you send, the more engagement you get, as long as you're sending it to the right people. You also want to have a preference center if you're really doing serious email marketing. So it used to just be a binary choice, right? You would subscribe or you'd unsubscribe. Now you should be able to not just unsubscribe, but maybe you just want to pause emails from this vendor for a month, or you want to limit them to a certain focus, right? And then finally, your content needs to be valuable. I'm getting a weird feedback. How'd that happen? No, it just changed. Oh, okay. It's okay. I'm going. All right. There we go. I'll just sit. That's better. Otherwise, it's hard to see. All right. So here's another challenge, which it really is specific to email marketing. This is my little Dilbert comic. And you guys can read it. I don't need to read it for you. But email marketing is one of those kinds of marketings or things that you do on the internet that you really have to have good collaboration between your technical team and your marketing team. Or maybe you're a startup and you don't really have a technical team. You just know you have a product and you need to sell it. So either way, if you don't have that, your underlying infrastructure might not be set up the right way, which can just totally destroy any email marketing efforts that you do. Oh, there we go. We already talked about some of those pointers. And then the other thing I was going to make, and it's kind of a joke, don't laugh, is that, if you guys are in marketing and you can't get people on your own technical team to help you out with this, good luck selling to random strangers on the internet. But, all right. So here's where we kind of drill down a little bit into these other topics. So here's the reasons why you want to separate the IP addresses that you send mail from. And just to be clear, we're talking about external IP addresses here, not the IP address that you would give a server on the inside. Oh, sweet, a chair. Tremendous. And now I can slide. This is great. This one actually rolls really good. So what ideally you'd want to be doing is you actually would send all your different types of email from a different IP address. So what we do is we separate our general business email on one IP, our marketing email, which we're using SendGrid, is on a separate IP, and then transactional emails like invoices or help desk tickets and things like that they're coming from multiple different IP addresses. And the reason why you do that is mailbox providers will analyze that data and see the connection history and things like that. And if it's all lumped together, someone maybe can do something that sets off an alarm, and now all of your email that's coming from one IP address is blacklisted and nothing's getting through. Another kind of unique concept to ensuring deliverability of your marketing email is that you have to warm up that IP address. So if you've experienced this, maybe you try to do your own email marketing, or maybe you have some like web hosting servers, they get blacklisted, you change the IP. Well, guess what? Now nobody wants your email address because they've never seen that IP address. Or they don't want your email because they've never seen that IP. So you have to go through a process of warming it up. And you start slow, and then you progressively can build higher. I actually have a little slide about how we recommend doing it and how SendGrid recommends doing it. I believe on the first day you actually start with as few as like 20 messages an hour. And then by day 20 you can send like 40 million a day. And that's the chart that I'm talking about here on the daily volume. So this is with 2 IPs. You can also use multiple IPs for marketing for different reasons. You might have different segments that you use different IPs for. You might have different brands or things like that. But see, I mean, you start with a very, very low volume here of potentially like 50 emails. And then on day 17, with a single IP address, you're at 4 million. And on this model, you're up to 80 million in 20 days. I don't know who really needs to send 80 million messages in a day, but that's what you can do. So we're talking about sending consistently. So ideally now at this point, you should have your marketing emails on a separate IP address, and you should have warmed that IP address up. Well, guess what? That IP address doesn't stay warm. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. It goes cold. Or at the same time, mailbox providers will develop profiles of how much email they typically see from your IP address in a given day. So if you send out 500,000 messages in one day, but typically you'll only send out about 1,000, that's going to set off some flags, and it might result in your messages getting deferred. They might bounce, they might get blocked, they might get directed to spam. You might have ongoing reputational issues. So ideally, you want to keep that consistent. And I know that's hard from a marketing perspective, because maybe you have a list of 100,000 people, and you want to send them all a message on Sunday night. Well, it's an interesting way to kind of maybe think about how you can engage with people at different times of the week, further segment your list to make them more effective. So here we're talking about mailbox providers and their filtering sophistication. And this is sort of relevant for the next few bits. So not shockingly, AOL is the least sophisticated mail provider. Believe it or not, there's still people in the United States that have dial-up internet to connect to AOL, and some of them only use it to go to that email box. And on the other end of the spectrum is Gmail, who hopefully, we're all familiar with Gmail. They have very sophisticated filtering. And sometimes I'm not sure they know how sophisticated it is. And here's why that's important. So hopefully no one is really sending email to people with AOL addresses, right? They're all probably on Gmail or G Suite or Office 365 or Outlook, something like that. So there's 2 ways you can monitor email metrics. One way we have really good insights, if you're using the right platform and the right technology, and it actually doesn't have to be ours. You can do this on your own. It just takes a lot of work. So we're looking at all these things, right? Whether the message was deferred, and by deferred, I'm talking about a 400 error code of some sort. So it's a retry event, but it means if you're getting out of those, it means there's something wrong with how everything's configured, because the receiving party thinks there's something a little bit off about that message. Hard bounce, that's never good. You got to look at why, though. It doesn't necessarily mean that mailbox is gone. It might mean that you're just blacklisted entirely and you get a hard bounce. Obviously, deliveries, messages delivered. Cool, that's like a third of the battle. Now we have whether the message was opened, was the call to action engaged, or was there a click? And then on the bad side, you have spam reports and unsubscribes. So those are all things that you can monitor. But what especially Google's doing, Gmail's doing, they're also monitoring other activities that users take within Gmail to determine how valuable the content is that you're sending. And this is whether it's a password reset or a receipt or marketing content. You know, if you forward messages or your content gets forwarded to other people, or if it gets starred, or if it gets highlighted, or it gets moved from spam to the inbox, those are all positive things that are actually going to help get your mail into the inbox. And if you're wondering what does a good, successful email campaign look like, I maybe overstated how bad the red is. I called it disaster. But I think the good, you know, you're talking about 10% open rate. I know I've talked to people who are saying they're getting 2 to 3%. It's just not worth it. Well, maybe there's reasons why. There's probably reasons why. You know, you're talking about less than 0.5% of people unsubscribing, and less than 1/10 of 1% of spam reports on the good side. You know, and so that's where that you really should be looking at from a metrics perspective to determine the effectiveness of your email marketing, and also to determine if you might have an underlying, you know, infrastructure issue that's really impacting how your mail is getting delivered. And so here's the other thing, especially that you know, Office 365 and Gmail is doing. It's super important to keep your lists clean, right? You have to track whether a recipient's engaged. If you've been sending an email every week to the same person for 3 years and they've never opened it, they probably aren't very interested, right? Or maybe they're dead. I don't know, like very morbid, but they don't want that. So you know, you got to figure it out, right? Do you remove them, or do you segment them into some sort of re-engagement campaign? Or do you kind of send them a funny, like, haha, this is the last email you're getting from us. We're going to unsubscribe you next week. So if you want to stay on the list, click here. And go to your preference center, right? And say that you actually want to stay on here. And the best part about this is that the way our pricing model works is that we actually charge you based on the number of emails you send. So we're telling you can actually send less emails, which will save you money on your infrastructure costs and the cost to send them, and you'll actually get better results. So here's an actual chart from a customer on our platform, and the blue is the number of messages that were delivered. So you can see they peaked at over 300,000. The orange is the number of opens that they got. And the green bar there is kind of the trend line. Well, it looks like on a certain day they really cleaned up their email list. They probably had enough data now that they were using a real, you know, email marketing platform to look and say, hey, we have all of these emails we're sending, and a lot of these people haven't engaged with us in 6 months. Let's just take them off, segment them out. And as their mail volume dropped from 300,000 messages a day to 50,000 a day, their opens went up, right? I mean, their opens went way up. So it's pretty impressive. And if you just, in terms of percent opens, it's like off the charts. So if you're getting very bad numbers here, it could be because it's your list, right? And the more you clean your list up, the more those numbers will go up. And smaller lists with better quality contacts will have better numbers in absolute numbers as well. The relative will go up, but absolute opens and clicks will also go up. Another issue that we struggle with, I think, with email marketing is to send relevant emails. So actually, just like half an hour before I went on the stage here, I got an email from a hotel in Putrajaya. And I don't know if they were here at the event today or if they saw in some online venue that we were here advertising. And I got a very generic email. Subject was attention sales manager or something. And you know, a 42-page PDF attached with all their things about their hotel, which is very nice. But that's a zero, right? That's a dud. I only opened it because I wanted something to talk about. But otherwise, that just goes right in the delete bin. But you just from a branding perspective, every email that you send from a marketing perspective, you want to emphasize your brand, right? Your logo should be the first thing that people see. You want to use the same typography, fonts. The reason why we actually started a little bit late here, aside from the fact that the other guy went over, is that we use a specific font, which is non-standard in our PDFs or in our PowerPoints. And this is a technical quirk that drives me insane. PowerPoint for Mac doesn't embed the fonts in the file, so I always have to send them. I should just get a PC, I guess. I don't know. You also want to not make things too busy. Your message has to be clear, and the purpose of it has to be clear, and the call to action has to be just simple and easy, and it should make sense. So here's some examples. Nope, that's cool. That stuff, the delivery isn't open, just ignore that. I copied and pasted the slide and didn't realize it was there. So this is Asana. This is another SendGrid customer. But you can see, and I know the resolution isn't very good here, but it's very simple. Their logo's at the top. They have a little embedded GIF or something. And they want people to upgrade to premium to get new functionality for their product. Here's another in that series, right? The same concept, right? It's consistent. People eventually, they develop this concept of your company, and it's more than just your company. It's how things look, how things feel, and that they do this over and over and over again. And it's a very simple call to actions. Just one. It's clean, right? Pretty sure if you go down there. That one on the right is or my right, your left, I don't know, is an older one. It says unsubscribe. But these here, they all say manage email preferences. So those folks are going to a preference center. So they're not unsubscribing necessarily. Maybe they're just getting less email or getting more relevant email. So here are some other interesting facts. So 3-word subjects by far have the best engagement, which might seem counterproductive. And I'm going to look at the notes on my phone because I have some stats about other ones, which I thought were kind of cool. And this is based on a real study that analyzed a number of email campaigns. So words with or subjects with 7 words most common. 3-word subjects only 1.6% of subject lines. But the 3 words have the highest engagement, 21% compared to 16% for 7-word subjects. So just tweaking your subject can be a huge boost for your email marketing. Choose your buzzwords carefully. Yeah, I'm going to go to my phone. So certain buzzwords, and this might be different, especially if you're sending emails in Malay or non-English, but from an English perspective, subject lines referring to yesterday and tomorrow have higher engagement rates than today, right? For whatever reason, soon is better than now. Free is also bad. Put free in your subject, it's bad. People don't like that. Engagement goes down 4%. Weird. It goes from 17% to 13%. Also, I'm not going to call it out specifically, but don't see this every interaction. Free GUI PSDs, Photoshop files, right? Ooh, there's a URL in there. Why would you do that? Maybe that's the only thing that they're actually going to see from that email, and you're going to put a URL in there. Don't do that. Also, hashtags, not so good in subjects. Another thing is, if you're doing email marketing, your email marketing tool should let you actually populate the pre-header. And by default, a lot of email clients and services will put something like, if you want to view the HTML version of this message, click here or something. You actually can configure what shows up in that. And that is a huge differentiator between an open and a delete. It's a very simple trick. Literally. Very clickbaity, but simple trick. And that actually brings us to the end. I try to stay on time. I actually never practiced that presentation. So these are some brands that use SendGrid, both for email marketing and/or transactional emails. There's a Malaysian brand there, Bill Please. They were in the sponsor room there. We were here at an event in June, and we onboarded them, and they've been very happy. But otherwise, you're talking about fairly big brands, which is great. I see we have some questions up there. I don't know if we have any questions in the audience. Huh? Audience, okay. Also, Bill, did we get the card thing to go around? Give some people a chance to get entered into this GoPro giveaway, which we'll do in a couple minutes. So the first question, is when sending email to a Gmail user, how do you prevent email to be sent into the promotion tab and the social tab instead of the primary tab? And that really goes back to the engagement that Google is measuring, right? So they're tracking data about if it's star, favorited, forward, replied to, or if it's just deleted, or if it's marked as spam, or if it's ignored. The more positive interactions that you can get from the email, the marketing emails that you send, the more likely it is it's going to show up where you want it to show up, which is the inbox. So again, that goes back to the whole concept of less is more. It's counterintuitive, I know. We all probably had desires when you were 16 to send a bunch of emails to local businesses, and here we are later. How do you track your actions of your email? How do you know if your audience has opened it and checked it? So it's a really good question, right? I mean, if you're just sending emails from like Gmail or Outlook or whatever, that functionality doesn't exist. Well, that's weird. It's changed. I started talking about the question and it got moved. It's interactive. Yeah, amazing. So there are tools that you actually can use more on the sales side, not so much the marketing side, that will integrate with Gmail and Office 365 to track that stuff. But otherwise, if you use a real, email service provider, those features should exist. I think if you want to roll your own, you kind of have to build it. Typically, for the open, what they're tracking is there's some sort of embedded image, which is like a 1 by 1 pixel image. And then for the link tracking, this is you sending a user to a special tracking page, and then they get redirected to wherever they need to go. So we have a question about if you have 1,000 people to email, how do you administer it and track it until it becomes a sale? I think that's a hard question to answer. It's not that hard, maybe. So I think that this is one of the areas that where people struggle with differentiating marketing and sales. What's the purpose of marketing? Maybe if it's B2C and you're selling widgets, it's actually to result in a sale. But if it's B2B and it's more of a service offering, maybe your marketing is really just to generate leads, right? Get leads engaged, get existing customers engaged, and talking about new products and services. But the best way, in my mind, either way, if you have a 1,000-person email campaign, and here's the best part about our service, is that it's free if you're under 40,000 messages. So that's pretty cool. So 1,000 people would be no problem. You get access to all this stuff. You get those engagement metrics. You can look at them. So maybe you have 1,000 people or 1,000 emails. Hopefully you have some other context to go with those emails. 1,000 is a huge amount. Hopefully you can segment those initially, which will help. But if not, you can send out an email to 1,000. And then if you have the right metrics, you actually can segment those emails based on the actions or inactions that happened, right? So out of 1,000, you might have 50 bounces, you might have a couple unsubscribes, a couple spams. Well, obviously, you don't need to contact those people anymore. But maybe 20% of them opened the email, but didn't do anything else with it. You probably would want to follow with them and send them a different type of message and create a different segment for those people. Maybe some people actually clicked on your call to action, but with whatever your positive result is for your conversion, that they haven't followed through for whatever reason, right? Whatever a conversion is for you, whether it's them signing up for a webinar or them buying a widget or whatever, it's not happening. You would want to send them a different message. And then you would want to send a third message to the people who didn't engage at all. So that's kind of the approach that you have to take, especially if you're starting with a list that you don't have a lot of context about. Also, don't buy those lists. Don't rent those lists. It's not a good idea. It can take a while to build a good reputation up, and it can just get blown in an instant, right? If you buy a bad list from somewhere and you get blacklisted, and especially if you're on a shared IP address, then you're also impacting that provider's other customers, whether it's a shared hosting company or an email service provider that's on more of a freemium type plan. You're just going to get kicked off. It's a bad day. Question is, what type of customers should we clean up from our email list? I guess that depends. And here's why I think that depends. And I'll be super candid with you guys. So sometimes when we do email blasts, we do email marketing campaigns for services that we know target maybe a lower segment of the market. They have lower spending capacity, they're looking for a cheaper solution. We remove our customers that are already subscribing to services above and beyond that. We don't want them to convert to a cheaper product and service, right? So that's one case of where you would actually want to do that. You need to have that segmentation. But that also goes back to context. How much context do you have about these? If they're your customers already, you should have a lot. If not, then maybe you need a different CRM or a different billing system or management system, right? But otherwise, you could also look at customers that maybe were past customers and they're not customers anymore. Why aren't they a customer anymore? Maybe they moved, maybe whatever. Maybe now because you've been using a real email marketing platform that you haven't heard from them in 6 months or 8 months. You move them to a different list. Or just unsubscribe them automatically. I think also, on the flip side of the coin, the other customers you might want to get rid of are the ones that drive you crazy. If you have any really bad customers, you don't want them coming back. So if you're featuring, the question is, if you're featuring a few topics or articles in a newsletter, how do you determine the best email subject title? I think newsletters are a little different than traditional email marketing. So this is a hard question to answer, because I guess the question I would ask in return is, what is the purpose of the newsletter? Oh, my time is up. So I have good news. We're going to give stuff away. Oh, tremendous. I guess the good news is you might win either way. You'll get a GoPro, and you'll get entered to win a trip to Bali, and you'll also probably hear from Matt or Bill or Madhu. So they're all good guys.
So the winner will be winning
It's a GoPro 7. I don't know if it's the Hero 7 White. If that means
latest one, the latest one.
Huh?
The latest one.
The latest one. All right. I don't know whose budget that came out of. Also, you have to be present to win. And for the non-present folks, we will be doing another drawing on Monday or Tuesday, because we also had a lot of people that didn't have cards. And you saw who it is? U Kim Han, Jintel. Ring a bell? All right. Lucky winner. You guys, can we get a photo? All right, thank you guys for hanging out past time, I think. Like the conference was maybe over a few minutes ago, but I appreciate it. Hopefully I actually gave you something that was useful. If not, let me know. Maybe we can figure out how to fix that in the future. But otherwise, everybody have a great evening. And look forward to hearing from Matt or Bill.